How's it going, everyone? With the draft officially completed, the Packers are quickly signing a lot of undrafted free agents, probably targets they've had on the radar to kind of get a feeler for, because they can expand to up to 90 players for their roster. I mean, I don't know if they've hit that number exactly, but I'm sure they're pretty close. So they've so far signed 8 undrafted free agents and have invited 1 player to the minicamp. And this is going to be a slight overview of each of the players and what position. There's not a lot of information on them, especially since they are undrafted free agents. So starting off with the offensive line, they've signed 2 offensive linemen. The first one, and it's kind of the biggest one, is Donovan Jennings. He's getting a $10,000, or according to Aaron Wilson, he's from South Florida, and he's agreed to terms with the Packers for a $10,000 signing bonus and $100,000 in guaranteed salary per the source. The signing bonus is more than they gave any undrafted free agent last year, and they did not give any guaranteed salary to any undrafted free agents last year. Strong deal for the Packers offensive linemen. So apparently, the Packers really liked Donovan Jennings, and apparently, potentially a lot of other teams did, so that could be why they had to give him such a high contract for an undrafted free agent. So this is probably the biggest one for them. For Donovan Jennings, his RAS score, he's got an 8.93. Comes in at 6'4", 323 pounds, and ran the 40-yard dash in 5.02 seconds with the shuttle of 4.7. So a decently athletic offensive lineman, right around where they usually like 6'3", 6'4", 323 pounds. And on the PFF side, as you can see, just mainly for his last year, had an offensive grade of 72.8, run block of 64.8, and a pass blocking grade of 82, and allowed 2 sacks. And had 18 total pressures. And he only allowed 8 total sacks over 6 college careers. So not a bad career. Looks like he's a better pass blocker than a run blocker. Then as for the second offensive lineman that they signed was Trente Jones out of Michigan. Has a RAS score of 7.73. Comes in at 6'3", 305 pounds, and ran the 40-yard dash in 5.17. So a bit of another athletic offensive lineman for them. And for his PFF grades, had 4 years at Michigan. And in his final year, had a 69.4 offensive grade, 67.4 run block grade, and a 79.3 pass block grade. Allowed no sacks and only 3 pressures. And a total of pretty much 4 years at Michigan, only had 3 total sacks allowed and 9 total pressures. So not a bad year. And kind of looks like a balanced offensive lineman for the most part based off these PFF grades. Now, the next player we have on our list is Javon Howard, running back out of Alcorn State. Comes in with a RAS score of 7.39, is 5'9", 219 pounds. Did the bench press an amazing 28 times. And ran the 40-yard dash at 4.53 seconds. So a very strong running back. Over on PFF, he had 5 years in college, 3 at Syracuse and 2 at Alcorn State. Didn't really play for Syracuse and really played for Alcorn State. But in his final year, had 154 rushing attempts, for 764 yards and 5 yards per attempt. Same yards per attempt in his first year at Alcorn State, where he ran for 1,200 plus yards. Comes in with a grade in 2023 of offensive grade of 73.1, run grade of 76.1, fumble grade of 81.2, as he only fumbled once, and pretty much only fumbled 6 times in his entire career. 3 of them coming in his first year at Syracuse, so it doesn't seem to have a big fumbling problem. The next player we have on our list is a wide receiver. This one was invited to minicamp unless something changes, but as of right now, he's just been invited to minicamp. So he comes in with a RAS score of 9.18, comes in at 6'1", 201 pounds, had a vertical jump of 36.5, but a broad jump of 10 feet, 6 inches, and a 40-yard dash of 4.53. So his top end speed's not very high, but he's got a good 10 and 20-yard split and a good 3-cone at 6.77, but a bad shuttle at 4.4. So his metrics are a little bit everywhere in that sense, but a slightly interesting wide receiver prospect. And over on PFF, he spent 5 years at college, started at Central Michigan, then played 2 years at Akron, and then another 2 years at Albany. In his final year, was targeted 94 times, had 50 receptions for 820 yards and 11 touchdowns, and had grades of 74 offensive grade, 74.9 receiving grade, and then 71.0 drop grade. So not bad grades on his part. Had a decent year for Albany. But with our current receiving room, it's probably going to be hard for him to crack a starting line and potentially could just be a practice squad in the long run. Moving along to our next player is a tight end in Messiah Winston, and this dude's freaking huge. He comes in at 6'7", 6'8", and 259 pounds. He does not have a RAS score, but he did run at his pro day. So he ran the 40-yard dash in 4.87 seconds, had a broad jump of 8 feet and 7 seconds, and a vertical jump of 28 inches. So not very athletic in that sense. He has a good 40-yard dash, especially at that size. He's a huge tight end. But pretty much at the collegiate level, he only played 4 years, 2 at Missouri starting off, and then 2 years in Arizona State. He didn't really do much as a receiving tight end. I'm not sure if he's more of just a blocking tight end, but looking at his grades, offensive in his final year, offensive grade of 47.4, receiving grade of 48.5, but he was only targeted 8 times. And a pass block grade of 68.6. It looks like he's more of like one of those blocking tight ends, but it's kind of hard to see what his exact role is. But as we can see in 2022, he did get targeted more and was 15 receptions, 485 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So not entirely a big receiving threat, but I feel like he's more of a blocking tight end. But either way, dude is freaking huge. Now moving along to the defensive linemen, the Packers did sign 2 defensive linemen. First one being James Esther out of Northern Illinois. He comes in at 6'3", 298. Doesn't really have a RAS score or any testing scores. But for his collegiate career on the PFF, he had 5 years at Northern Illinois. In his final year, had a defensive grade of 71.8, run defense grade of 73.6, tackling grade of 60.2, pass rush grade of 62.8, and looks to be more of potentially a run defender kind of defensive lineman. He did end up with 4 sacks in his final year. And for his time at Northern Illinois, totaled 10 total sacks and 65 tackles. So not a bad college career for him amongst the defensive line. He did grade very well. And then moving on to the other defensive lineman that we signed was Rodney Matthews out of Ohio, not Ohio State, but just Ohio. And comes in at 6'2", 310 pounds. PFF's not actually even showing any type of season grades for him at all. He did play in his final year, so I'll just put the whole thing up here where you see the grades. But he ended with a 70.8 defensive grade, a 74.8 run defense grade, a 51.6 tackling grade, and a 62.6 pass rushing grade. He ended up with 1 sack, and that was about it for his season. So it didn't really amount to much based off what I can see, but getting another body on that defensive line for the Packers. Moving along into the second level, we did sign 1 linebacker, and that is Raylan Goforth out of Washington. Comes in with a RAS score of 7.81, height of 6'1", and weighs 227 pounds. Did the bench press at 22 times, and a 40-yard dash of 4.62. So a decently fast linebacker, a pretty athletic, shuttle time of 4.21. Did end up playing 5 years at the collegiate level, 4 with USC before transferring to Washington. So at his time at USC, he ended up with 147 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss and an interception, and a forced fumble. Then in his 1 year at Washington, had 37 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 pass defended. So a decent year for him at Washington, but not really eye-popping off the paper. On PFF, he hasn't graded very well at all for them. So in his final year at Washington, 59.4 defensive grade, 53.3 run defense grade, 41.3 tackling grade due to the fact he's missed 10 tackles. He seems to miss a lot of tackles in his years at the collegiate level, and a 68.4 coverage grade. So I feel like they're bringing him in due to the fact he's another athletic linebacker and potentially a camp body, but he has been signed to the Packers at least for this offseason. Then the last one, which might be the biggest one, is Peter Bowden, who is a long snapper. Out of all the players that we've kind of signed as undrafted free agents, this one might be the one that has the best chance of actually making the 53-man roster. And he's going to get a good opportunity because our long snapper has kind of been a lot left to be desired. So something about him, he comes in at 6'2", 237 pounds, and was the Patrick Manley Award finalist in 2023 and semi-finalist in 2022. That award is essentially given to the nation's best long snapper every year. So the fact he was undrafted, we need a long snapper or a better one, and he was in competition as one of the best long snappers. Let's bring him in. And to make it better, he played for Wisconsin. So the Packers are bringing him in to compete, and he has a good shot of winning roster spot on the 53-man roster. And to add to it, he was Dane Brugler's #1 rated long snapper in the draft class, and was actually the only long snapper to be given a draft grade. So why not go for the best one? Hopefully he'll be better than our current long snapper position and help that special teams, but he'll definitely be given a shot. But that's just about a brief summary of all the undrafted free agents we've gotten to our team so far. I'm sure more moves will be made. And as those moves are made, I'll be making videos about them. Probably a brief synopsis considering there's not a lot of information out about them. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, go Pack Go.